God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoyseth and Dave Daba.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is week number 12 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoyseth over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave Daba up in Northern California. It has been a few weeks since we've had a chance to record the Gods of Odds live. Mr. Hoyseth, what is going on? And can you believe all of the upsets over the last couple weeks, my friend?
No, I can't. You know, I'm wearing my UC Davis sweatshirt today, Dave. My daughter coming home tomorrow from college, and ordinarily her and I will make the stuffing the night before Thanksgiving, but I had to go solo this year, so we talked to her on FaceTime as I was making the stuffing, but we're all ready for the holiday tomorrow. We got the bird and the stuffing and the mashed potatoes, the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to a day of football. It'll be interesting to see what the Bills look like tomorrow. I mean, you talk about disappointments. But that's one of the games we'll be picking. They're playing the Saints, who just look like a terrible football team right now. So, but we'll get into that. But other than that, it's been an interesting couple of weeks. Had to go back to the Midwest for some family matters, but got those all cleared up, and I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, super excited. Brad is winning in our head-to-head competition so far this year. I think Brad is up by 5 games over me, somewhere in that 4 to 5 game range. And I'm looking for some major redemption this weekend. Mr. Hoyseth, kick us off with your first game, my friend.
Well, we might as well jump right into that one. It's the Bills at the Saints. The Bills are a 6-point favorite. It's two teams that haven't looked real good, and but I tell you that the way the Bills look bad is nothing compared to where the Saints just look like a bad team right now. They look like a team that's in real big trouble. I mean, they don't look like they can get out of the funk they're in, and now their defense isn't playing very well, and this week, they're not going to have Alvin Kamara, and Mark Ingram is considered questionable. Trevor Siemian's not a very good quarterback. They don't have enough confidence in Taysom Hill to put him in there to start. They got a lack of, guys going out for passes. I just think it's a team that's in real trouble. And I think the Bills do bounce back this week. It seems like every Bills game is a blowout. But I don't see the Saints blowing out the Bills. I think it's going to be the other way around. I think the Bills are going to blow out the Saints tomorrow on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think when I sort of looked at this game and I saw that you picked this game, I was thankful. I was like, thank you, Brad, because the Saints are a little bit of a mess at this point in the season, though, their record, still sort of has them, in position for that last playoff spot, which is, which just basically means they had a couple good weeks in the earlier part of the season. The only thing I can say about Mark Ingram at this point, the best part about Mark Ingram's game is his post-game press conferences. So when him and Alvin Kamara get together in a post-game press conference, it's priceless. But beyond that, I'll definitely agree with you on the Bills here, though you have to admit that there is something wrong with this Bills team. They are no longer in first place. Yeah, like the Buffalo Bills reign is over as the Patriots have leapfrogged them back into first place. Like I something is just not right. I mean, Josh Allen just doesn't seem to be the same quarterback that he was the last couple years. And quite frankly, they have no running game at all. And eventually that's gonna catch up to them. Some teams can overcome these things. Other teams can't. I'm fearful that in the long run, for all those people that took Buffalo and have them in the Super Bowl, it's just not going to happen at this point.
Yeah, it's, defensive coordinators are smart and they'll figure you out. And I see a lot of similarities between the Bills and the Chiefs because Chiefs don't have much of a running game, and they've been kind of relying on Patrick Mahomes for a couple of years to win games for them. I think what's disappointing, though, is the Bills' defense is not playing very well, and the offensive line is just not protecting Josh Allen. And they've kind of figured him out, much like teams I think have started to figure out Russell Wilson a little bit. And so a lot of those teams, the Seattle Seahawks, the Saints, the Bills, I'm seeing a lot of the same problems. And fortunately, they get a pretty beat up New Orleans team this week. The Saints are going radically in the wrong direction. Their offense is just a mess. They really don't have a lot of options there. And when you take Kamara out of the lineup and all of a sudden Mark Ingram, a guy who just, basically stepped on campus, if you will, 2 weeks ago, he's going to be your guy. And now he's a little bit nicked up. I just don't know. They just don't have a lot of options to score points. And I just kind of feel like the Bills, even when they look bad, they can still score 20, 24, 26 points. And I just don't know where the points are going to come from if you're New Orleans.
Yeah. Another fun thing on the Saints front this week, they signed their gadget quarterback, Taysom Hill, to a contract extension.
Yeah, big contract too. I don't understand that whatsoever. If he can't start over Trevor Siemian, what is he doing making $94 million over the course of however many years it was?
Exactly. And thank you for saying if he can't start over Trevor Siemian. I mean, there are 10 guys in college football right now that are better than Trevor Siemian is at this point. And Trevor Siemian's had the luxury of studying NFL defenses for, a handful of years at this point, and he just doesn't get it. It's like a majority of Jets quarterbacks. They just don't get it. All right. So moving on to my first game of the week. This is a tale of two teams. The Titans at the Patriots. For weeks I've been saying that the Titans were the best team in the National Football League. And you can't say that for too many weeks. Eventually, that will bite you, especially when you're throwing money down on games against the spread. In this particular game, the Patriots are at home and they're actually favored by 6. The way I actually see this thing playing out is, I think we both like Mike Vrabel a lot. I think we both like the how much better this Titans defense has sort of been getting up till their hiccup. Like if they had to play the Jets and the Texans every other week, they'd probably they'd probably win 2 games all year. They just can't beat bad teams. That's what the problem is with this Titans team. They released Adrian Peterson. The Adrian Peterson experience is over in Tennessee as of this afternoon. And I just don't see this Titans team having enough firepower to figure out what went wrong against the Texans. You're talking about Bill Belichick on a short week against, his former player. Like they're going to be ready. Patriots will win this game by more than 6.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't know why. You can make a lot of solid points, but I think what the Titans are finding out is that Derrick Henry is a pretty valuable piece of the equation, and I just haven't seen them try to run the ball. It seems like it's now left up to Ryan Tannehill to try to score points, and I still think they have a great offensive line, and And I think they just need to get back to doing what they do, even though it's not Derrick Henry. I don't think it's impossible to see a guy come out there and rush for close to 100 yards. And you just can't have Ryan Tannehill back there throwing it 40, 45 times. He's just not that kind of guy. But he's also a guy that can run the ball for you. And so I still think the Patriot offense is a little bit patchy at times. I don't think it's great. I appreciate what they're doing. I think it's a great storyline. Bill Belichick could be the coach of the year for at least through 11 weeks. And he's got his team in first place, and I think that's great. But I don't think first place has been a place you want to be in recent weeks. Seems like every time a team's in first place, they get beat that week. So I'm going to say Tennessee bounces back. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, you also make solid points. Look, if we've learned anything over the last month in the National Football League, we've learned that we really don't know as much as we all think we know. And I'm not just talking about us, Brad. Everybody out there that makes predictions on these games. There's just no way you would have predicted what would happen to the Tennessee Titans against the Houston Texans. I mean, as Chris Berman would say, that's why we play the games. And he's absolutely right. And I've been hesitant. I've wanted to have this blanket statement about Bill Belichick and the Patriots and that they were going to turn things around earlier in the season. I decided to not do that, and it's been more of a wait and see thing. This I think is going to be the true telling week for the Patriots. That they will officially be for real if they win, if they beat the Titans by more than 6 in this one.
Yeah, I think it might be kind of a matchup thing. I mean, you look at what happened to Tennessee last week against the Texans, and they went up against a guy, Tyrod Taylor, who I've always thought is a pretty decent football player.
He's better than Trevor Siemian.
I mean, he's a mobile guy, and they're not going to see that mobile guy this week. They're going to see more of a statue back there in Mac Jones, and so that's another reason I like the Titans this week. They didn't, their pass rush had been good up until last week, and then they met up against Taylor, who just has a unique set of skills. I think he's a decent football player, but Mac Jones is not a runner. He's not a guy that's going to avoid a whole lot of things. He's not going to take off and run and get 15, 20-yard touchdowns, anything like that. So that's another one of the reasons I went with the Titans. All right, on to my next game. We have got the Seattle Seahawks at the Washington football team. And, suddenly you watch Washington with Heineke at quarterback. And you go, he's kind of fun to watch. He kind of reminds you of a smaller, younger version of Brett Favre. It's a pick'em game at Washington, who seems to be playing pretty good football. Seattle's not playing good football. That is a team that I think, I talked to somebody last week, and it just seems like a team that is kind of done playing for Pete Carroll. He used to always get those guys that would play for him, and they would always play above their heads. It seems like that magic is kind of gone. I mean, they're a 3-win team right now. They don't look very good. Even the good players on defense like Jamal Adams aren't playing very good football. I know it's desperation mode for Seattle, but I like Washington in this game. It's a pick'em game. They're at home. It kind of feels like Washington should be playing on Thanksgiving, although they're not. It seems like they were one of those teams that used to play a lot on Thanksgiving. But it's not a thing. That's not a thing. That's not a game tomorrow, is it, Dave?
No, it isn't. And considering what their former name was, I can see why they don't play on Thanksgiving.
To make a long story short, I'm taking Washington. It's a pick'em game. I like them at home against a really, really struggling Seattle team right now.
All right. Hey, by the way, I hear Washington's actually going to announce at some point a new name for their football team at when the season is over. I'd be very curious to see if they do any uniform color scheme changes and or if they stay in the neighborhood of their current uniforms. Yeah, look, this particular game, I look at this Washington football team. I look at the Seattle team. You're absolutely right. I think like Pete Carroll thought he had blocked all those calls from the NCAA. You remember when Pete was at the end of his rope at USC, and things were starting to boil up a little bit, that there might be some issues brewing with the NCAA. Carroll's, I think the oldest coach in the National Football League today. You're absolutely right. You're spot on, Brad, with what you've said about Pete Carroll at this point. Basically getting to that point where the rah-rah stuff just isn't working anymore with this team. The Jamal Adams trade, while I loved it at the beginning, has proved to not really pan out. But I can't really blame Seattle for taking a swing. It's just that they took a swing and then miss. That's at least they tried something. So you got to give the Seahawks organization some credit there. But I think this is the end of Pete Carroll in Seattle. This will be it for Pete Carroll this year. It's crazy to me, all of the where Russell Wilson's going to go next. It's like, where's Waldo going? That's what Russell Wilson suddenly turned into. I even heard somebody say this week, well, Sierra prefers Miami over New York. I'm just like, I think it's hard for me to believe that Russell Wilson is actually going to leave Seattle after Pete Carroll is forced out. So
I don't know if they can even get rid of Pete Carroll. I think he's also got an executive position there as well. So it's a dicey situation. But bringing up Russell Wilson, he doesn't look like the same guy this year. And I know he broke a finger or something a few weeks back, and he's trying to come back. But I just don't see that magic of him when he gets outside the pocket and hitting, guys deep, but that are some seemingly left alone. That or much like the Bills, as I talked about earlier, maybe defenses have just figured them out, and you have to come up with something new at some point. They've badly missed Chris Carson. I think they have almost no running game to speak of, and the defense is not playing like it used to play. And so I think they're going into a Washington team that I think is a decent young football team. There's some talent on that team. When you look at Terry McLaurin and Gibson, and I think Heineke is playing well, and he's playing better football right now than Russell Wilson.
He absolutely is, and at times Russell Wilson drops back to pass. He's got a guy in a 12-yard out, and he throws a Baker Mayfield ball, which basically means it sails 5 feet over the guy's head, out of bounds. And obviously, when I watch him play, that finger injury is definitely affecting his ability at this point. But the whole organization it seems like it just happens in the National Football League. You're up for a really long time. And I think the, organization, while Pete Carroll, is sitting atop the organization, he still does report into Paul Allen's sister, who is the current owner of the team. And there'll be enough pressure that she'll most likely make a move. That would be my guess. So anyways, I'm with you. I'm going with Washington, and I love Scary Terry. And you're right. Tyler Heineke is playing. He's a gamer. I mean, you wouldn't start a National Football League team with him, but you'd be happy to have him as a backup quarterback on your team if you needed him for 2 to 3 games a year.
Yeah, he made some gutsy plays last week, and that's the kind of guy he is. He's just kind of a gunslinger. He makes some decisions that are, questionable, but he also can go out there and make a play for you when the play looks like it's dead, and he turns it into something.
Last thing I'll say here too is, the Washington football team, which has won a significant amount of Super Bowls in its history. but the Super Bowls that they won, and they always won with a sort of a quarterback that came out of nowhere. That was, sort of on the backside or downside of their career, or had or was an upstart that you'd never heard of before. Doug Williams, Joe Theismann was hurt. You had can you pop the Jay Schrader bubble? All of these guys. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl with him, but he's just a gutsy little quarterback. He's got that whole Kurt Warner thing going for him, where he was doing something other than football. In Kurt's case, he was bagging groceries at a grocery store. I believe Henneke was working his way into the insurance business when he got the call. All right, moving on to my next pick. I've got the Eagles. Speaking of bad quarterbacks, Brad, my phone was blowing up. Eagles at the Giants. The Eagles on the road. Like, everybody should be fired in New York when this happens. When a rebuilding Philadelphia Eagle team comes into MetLife Stadium on the road, and they're favored by 3.5 points against your New York Giants football team. The entire New York Giants regime needs to be blown up at this point. General manager, maybe you give the head coach one more year, but the pieces started to crumble earlier in the day, as I'm sure all sorts of people in Dallas cried when they heard Jason Garrett was gone as the offensive coordinator in New York. Just what can you say? I think at this point, Brad, is there enough proof here on Daniel Jones? Like, have you seen enough now?
I've seen enough. I think I sent you texts over the weekends. I said, Daniel Jones is terrible. And he offers a little bit as a runner. He can take off and get you 15, 20 yards on occasion. But the guy just makes an unbelievable amount of bad decisions as a quarterback on where to throw the ball. And I think I said, 5-6 weeks ago, that I thought that was going to be the first coaching staff that got fired.
Yeah,
I still believe it. I think the Giants are a bad football team. The Eagles they're playing good football. And, Jalen Hurts has started to develop a reputation as a guy who's a gamer. And, the young kid, the wide receiver out of Alabama, is playing really well. And they've got some options now. They can run the football. They can throw the football. They've always played gritty defense, the Eagles. I see no reason that they can't beat that spread, which is 3.5. I'm along with you. I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, and I think if you went back and we looked at this game coming up, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we would both at that time probably said, "Oh no, we're if we're picking that far in advance, we would have said take the Giants." But the truth of the matter is, at least at this point, because it's really Jalen Hurts' first time around. I feel like this is really his rookie season in the National Football League. And I think teams will eventually, figure out how to shut down the running back version of Jalen Hurts and force him to have to sit in the pocket. It's the same thing that our good Lamar Jackson, has gone through. It's the same thing, a lot of quarterbacks go through in the National Football League on that second trip through the NFL. But let's face it, this Giants organization, this Giants coaching staff is a fire sale waiting to happen. It is absolutely over for the Giants this year. And I think organizationally, there's going to be all sorts of changes in front. And in fact, Russell Wilson was rumored to be the leading candidate to be the new quarterback in New York next year, which I just find hard to believe. All right, Joseph, on to your next pick.
All right, let's go to what I find to be an interesting game this week. Tampa is at Indy, and the over-under on that is 51.5. And I think you and I are going to disagree on this, but I'm going to take the under, and I think there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, Indianapolis loves to run the football. That tends to shorten games a little bit. But the Buccaneers are really good at stopping the run. They haven't been great defensively this year, but I believe they're 1 or 2 in the league in rush defense. And so it's strength on strength. And I just see if there are going to be scoring drives, they're going to be long ones. But I see a lot of drives for Indy, coming up short, 35, 40-yard line. Maybe they have to try a field goal or punt the ball away. And I think Tampa, with the way they can stuff the run, I think now forces the ball into the hand of Carson Wentz. And we've all seen that storyline many times over the last 3-4 years. So I'm going to take the under. I think 51.5 is a little high. I think the Buccaneers win the game on the road at Indy, but I do believe it is a lower scoring affair.
Yeah. Totally on the fence here. I was waiting for your reasons to see if I was going to flip flop on this one, Brad, and join you in the under. This Colts team has been hot. Obviously, one of the hottest running backs in the National Football League. I mean, for God's sakes, he had a handful of touchdowns last week. A handful. I
played against him in fantasy football. I don't need a reminder.
Yeah, sorry about that. I've lost 3 weeks in a row now in fantasy football, and I'm holding on. And I blame Josh Allen for most of it.
Yeah.
But I just, Brad likes to play a lot of over unders, and I struggle with these a little bit more. And I just see a shootout happening in the second half of this game. And so I'm not going to flip flop. I'm just going to base this on, I think, we're going to have a shootout. And I think personally, the Colts are this week's hottest team in football. The Colts are, it's perfect timing as the HBO Hard Knocks in season Colts show comes out this week. So the NFL couldn't be happier about it. But when you look at this Colts team, I've wanted to call them dead for several seasons now, and Frank Reich, I have to admit, is one of the most solid coaches in the National Football League. He really knows how to press the right buttons with his team. Carson Wentz is statistically having one of the better seasons as a quarterback in the NFL this year. As much as I personally bashed him early in the season, I still don't think he's learned his lesson in terms of taking hits and trying to win on every single play. I've watched enough of him over the last couple of weeks where I feel like he hasn't really changed. He just hasn't gotten hurt. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the over reluctantly.
Yeah, I think it's a really important football game for both of those teams. I just kind of feel like Indianapolis has been great, playing great football. They've been running the ball like mad. Have Quentin Nelson, who's a little bit dinged up. It's unclear whether or not he's going to play. But I want to see Indianapolis win when they don't run the ball successfully.
Yeah.
And I just kind of feel like if there's a team that can stop them, it's Tampa, because their run defense is very good.
Right. Okay. Moving on. Rams at Packers. Good old COVID toe Aaron Rodgers. I think was the one thing I heard today. But And anyways, I for a couple weeks there, I had to eat a little bit of crow. Had to say maybe I was wrong about Matthew Stafford. Maybe I shouldn't have been making the jokes about him skiing down the backside of Career Mountain, Brad. I haven't said anything about that for like 7 weeks. Maybe I was right. I know how you feel about Sean McVay as a head coach. Not sure you're willing to publicly state all of those things. But this is essentially a pick'em game. It's 1 point. The Packers are favored by a single point in this. If you look at the Packer Viking game last week, the Packers had like 7 starters out in that game. So the depth on that Packer team is vastly improved this year, even over last year. This is a Packer team that has been to back-to-back NFC championship games. This is the 3rd year of Matt LaFleur as the head coach. I don't think we give him enough credit for sort of keeping this team afloat during all of this Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love silliness that has gone on. I see the Packers being a little bit upset about what happened last week in Minnesota and taking it out on what I think will be an unprepared is wrong, but an out-prepared Los Angeles Rams team by the Matt LaFleur and the Packer coaching staff.
Yeah, this is not a game that I would bet until I found out whether or not Jones is going to play.
Yeah.
And I guess he did get in some limited practice today, which, they were initially said he would also miss this week, but now I think he's more of a questionable tag.
Yeah.
But I think the Packers, I think Aaron Jones is the most important player in that offense. And when the Packers don't play well, as a general rule, they're not getting the ball to Aaron Jones. And, I'm not one of these conservative guys that says you got to run the football in order to win, because I don't believe that. But Aaron Jones offers so much, not only as a running back, but also as a receiver out of the backfield. And he's a huge weapon for them. And if you take him out, they become a lot more one-dimensional with Davante Adams. The Rams do have guys that can cover Davante Adams. Jalen Ramsey is arguably the best corner, on the planet right now. And so I like the Rams in this game. Plus, the Rams have had an extra week to prepare for this game. So, the Packers are coming off a pretty poor performance against Minnesota. They didn't look very good, and they made it close. And Aaron Rodgers is that kind of guy. He's a special player. But I'm going to take the Rams on the road in kind of a surprise, and I'm going to say that all is not well in Green Bay.
Yeah, I think all is not well in Los Angeles with this Rams team, and sometimes you get out on the road and things turn around, and I definitely get it. But I mean, wouldn't it be great, just to see the Packers beat the Rams by 30 points. I mean, just saying, wouldn't it be great?
Let's also not forget, though, that Matthew Stafford used to see the Packers twice a year. So it's not like it's unfamiliar territory meeting up with Green Bay.
Yeah. You bring up a really, really good point. And, but historically, the Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford have had, great shootouts over the years. But something just not right. Something's not clicking right now. Losing Robert Woods was huge, absolutely huge. And I don't think OBJ was maybe a nice to have ancillary thing. They certainly didn't think they were going to need OBJ to be a replacement for one of their top wide receivers. That's not really why they went out and got him. From what I hear, he's struggling to learn the offense. That's, these quarterbacks, man, I'm telling you, they got to have confidence in the route runners or they don't throw the ball to them. And
yeah, I'm not ordinarily an OBJ type of guy fan.
Yeah.
I don't like those guys that, like to talk to the media and make wise guy comments and demand the football. But I'm not sure when it comes to the Rams that that's not what they need. That's a one-dimensional offense. You know how I feel about that offense. I hate that offense. Everything runs through Cooper Kupp, and they don't have much of a running game. There's way too many east-west plays and not enough north-south. And I think if OJ can go in there and say, I need the ball, I think he's right. I think they do need to spread the ball around a little bit more. And so I don't know that he's done that yet. I don't know that he's caused any disruption, but I do believe that OBJ could make that team better if he offers them some sort of deep threat. But it's unclear whether or not he's the same guy that he was 2 years ago. So anyways, that's my last parting note on that, but I'll move on to my next game. It's a real beauty. It's Atlanta at Jacksonville, Dave. And I know that's one that you've been circling on the schedule here for a couple of weeks.
Should I fly out to that game?
Right, exactly. And the over-under, I'm playing on that one. You were right. I do like the over-unders. And on that one, the over-under is 46. And the reason I like that is I don't have a tremendous amount of faith in either team, but both of those teams do like to throw the football. Jacksonville would love nothing more than to have their rookie quarterback show up and throw 45 passes and have 4 touchdowns. And they've tried it quite a few times. They haven't been particularly successful at it so far, but they are continuing to throw the football. Atlanta has almost no running game, and Matt Ryan's still trying to throw the football. But neither team is very good at stopping the pass. So it's an over-under of 46. You could see a couple of pick sixes, which drags you over 46 really easily. So I'm going to go with the over with that one, with the Atlanta Falcons at Jacksonville.
Do you know Matt Ryan last week had negative fantasy football points? And
he's a bad football player, Dave. I've said that for a number of years now. I think he's one of the worst 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the league. Maybe I'd put Simeon below him, but I'd be hard pressed to find somebody else that I think is a worse player than Matt Ryan at quarterback. Yeah,
and it's a shame too, because he didn't used to be that. It's just where he's at in his career. I mean, he was always a middle of the road quarterback. Occasionally would have the fantastic lights out game. Obviously helped the team get to the Super Bowl when Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for that Falcons team. Speaking of Kyle Shanahan and Jacksonville, that 49er Jacksonville game last week, Brad, I regretted it from the second I made that pick. And I think I texted you early in the day about Jacksonville. And then you probably didn't hear from me for a couple of hours after that. I was so mad because that Jacksonville team did not show up at all. They got out coached. And worse than that, they got bullied by that 49er team, and which wasn't even at 100% strength on the defensive side of the ball. So I just have very little faith in both of these teams. One of them I could see scoring 25 points, but I can't see like both teams doing that. So that's why I'm going with the under in this particular game.
Yeah, it's not a real beauty contest, that's for sure. It's probably the worst week of the game in terms of viewing. Not a lot of eyeballs going to be paying a whole lot of attention there.
We should do that. We should predict once a week, which is going to be the lowest rated television game of the week.
It's probably a pretty easy thing to do, I would think.
I'm going with that game. We'll check and let everybody know what
Where
it
are the
was
Lions playing? Oh, they play tomorrow, so that'll probably be one of the most highly viewed ones. The Lions, believe it or not.
Well, everybody's just waiting to see what it does. Does Dave DeBau's dream of a head coach getting fired at halftime happen tomorrow on Thanksgiving Day? I don't think we're covering the Chicago Bears Lions game here this week at all. But the rumor is that Matt Nagy's has been told he's going to be let go on Friday, and that they already told him that.
Wow.
And I just real quick, and then I'll get into my next pick. Like this whole Matt Nagy thing, I've always thought he did it. Yeah, he's a 500 coach, above 500 entering this season. Get off his back. It's like, do you know how hard it is to win more than five? To be like 28-23 in the NFL, coming into this season as a head coach in the National Football League. Do you know how many coaches fail? I mean, just flat out failed. It's obvious they should be fired.
I think Matt Nagy's a guy I would hire.
Yeah.
Frankly, I mean, you look at the way that organization handled the quarterback situation this year. Matt Nagy wanted to play Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
And the crowd, the management, everybody was telling him, play Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And I think he would have continued with Andy Dalton. I think they would be a better football team with Andy Dalton, right, had he played, another 4 or 5 games. But then he got hurt. Justin Fields came in, looked absolutely horrendous. He's had a couple of moments where he looked okay. But to me, Darnell Mooney's a good young player. They've never been able to keep the other wide receiver healthy there, Robinson. And, they've gone without Montgomery for a number of weeks now at running back. He's the best running back they've got there. They've got a terrible offensive line. I just don't think they've really given him a good chance, and I think he's the scapegoat moving forward. But they're not a good team right now, and the Lions have kept things close, all year long. They've played hard, and I think the Lions look good again tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Matt Nagy does lose that final game as the coach.
Yeah, I think Detroit gets its first win tomorrow. I don't think Justin Fields is going to play. And I think about the Chicago, like if you think about like where would
that puts Andy Dalton in there, Dave.
Yeah,
and you know how I feel about the Red Rifle.
Who's starting for Detroit? It's not.
I think it's going to be Jared Goff. That's the rumor, is that he might be playing.
Dan Campbell said earlier today that he's 60% sure that there's a 50-50 chance that Jared Goff will play quarterback.
That means it's 30%, right? I mean,
love him. I want to see Detroit. I want to see Detroit return to some level of glory someday under Dan Campbell. But that's,
return. When have they ever been at the level of glory? Scott Mitchell, I think, was the last time. Wayne Fonts was the coach.
Wayne Fonts, like they complained, and he was 8-8. I think
it was Scott Mitchell and Brett Perry, or one of the Perrymans. I think was wide receiver there.
I used to tell my Lions, the two Lions friends I had, I used to say, just be thankful you're hovering around 500. It could be a lot worse. And you look at the Chicago Bears organization, though, it's like, can you imagine, 4 years into Mike Tomlin's reign in Pittsburgh, the players complaining to management about Mike Tomlin as a head coach, calling Mike Tomlin into the office and telling Mike Tomlin, you're going to be canned the day after things it's Bush League. Look, we don't know for sure that that's what happened this week. All we know at this point is that's the rumor. There's got to be some significant truth in what's coming out of Chicago right now. In terms of cities to be a head coach in terms of franchises to be a head coach for, I would think that you could be the toast of the town in Chicago if you're the head coach there.
No doubt.
And I would, but I just think, Matt Nagy's just been disrespected. Okay. Super quick. Got to move on here. I've got the Vikings at the 49ers here in my backyard in Northern California. They are playing at that terribly designed $1 billion stadium at Levi's Stadium. Love the sponsor. But if you've been to a game there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Niners are currently favored by 3. Brad, interesting note here, not actually going to the game this weekend. We have triplet birthdays on Sunday, and I was told that took precedent over seeing the Vikes in person. So we'll be watching it on TV like the rest of America. I look at this game. This Viking team is 5-5. They do not have the luxury of where the Saints, just won a bunch of easy games early in the year. They don't have the luxury of sort of being like a bad 6-4 team. They're a 5-5 team right now. They're improving. Defense is sort of improving week over week. I think this is another sort of like must win game for this Viking team. This Viking team seems to play a little bit better on the road than they do at home. I'm going to say this just one time. Jimmy Garoppolo is no Aaron Rodgers. I just look at this game and I think this is a game that the Vikings, if they can get out ahead, will at least cover the spread. I think they're actually going to win the game. I'm going with the Vikes in Northern California.
Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, San Francisco's been a house of horrors for the Vikings for, it seems like ever. I had to watch the Burger King guy run it down the field in the commercials after Steve Young's run. I think you could look at both of these teams, and they arguably are playing some of the best football in the NFC, both teams. But I look at the Niners, and their last 2 performances have been completely dominating. When they played the Rams 2 weeks ago, I watched the first drive of the game, and it took like 11 and a half minutes. I mean, it was some sort of crazy drive, and I just said, this game's over. And the Rams could not stop them. And the Niners have a good running game, and the Vikings are really beat up on defense. And I think it's going to be a long day for the Vikings. I say the Niners get up front. The Vikings have to play catch up, but I don't think they do a good enough job of it. I'm going to take the 49ers at home against the Vikings and give the 3.
Yeah, not going to spend too much more time on this. I just this was a hard game to really look at because you do have to your point, a hot 49ers team, a semi-hot, Minnesota Viking team, and the way these things have gone in the NFL the last month is, teams get hot and they get cold really quick. And you're probably right. It's the Vikings are probably likely to get cold quicker than the 49ers in this one. I'm still going with the Vikes, though.
Hey, have the Vikings solved their kicking woes, Dave?
I got to tell you, my wife. Best text I got all weekend was from Brad. His wife came home and asked him, has a kicker missed any field goals yet? I told my wife that, and then she's like, how's the game going? And so she came in and we watched she caught the last 5 minutes of the game, and just torture. I couldn't even watch because I was at the game in Arizona, the same field goal, and he missed it. It was the same thing, and you can even hear the announcers, like it it went through, but let's just say it didn't go through with a lot of confidence, Brad.
Hey, I have more confidence in this guy. I don't know why it is. He did miss an extra point last week. I mean, that seems to happen every other weekend, but I have a sense that he can make a big field goal at the end of a game. He's done it a few times now, and this is a team that I think is moving in the right direction. I just think they're running into the wrong team this week.
It would be so easy for the National Football League to just outlaw the kicking entirely, right? Like, seriously, it would like be so easy to just not have field goal kicks, not have extra points, not have kickoffs, and just take the foot out of the ball entirely. It would just be so easy. But like, let's face it, it's one of the things that makes like all of this so intriguing. You've got this guy on your team who, let's face it, shouldn't be on a football field in most cases. Not going to say in all cases, but in most cases should be on a soccer field or a different field, but not a football field where there's 300-pound linemen. It's just a fascinating wrinkle, however this game was developed, however we got to the point where we're at, over the last 100 years in the National Football League. It's just a beautiful thing.
Dave, it's called football, right?
Yeah.
I gotta have a guy that plays with his foot, right? So
yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to move on to my last game. Cleveland's at Baltimore. This would have been a much more intriguing game about 5 or 6 weeks ago, but Cleveland is not playing very well. Baker Mayfield's been a mess. And the Ravens get, their quarterback back, Lamar Jackson, this week. They're a 3.5-point favorite at home. And I just think Cleveland's really reeling right now. There's not a lot of options on offense outside the running game. And the running game really hasn't even been that great over the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I think the Ravens get on track. Lamar Jackson back. I think they're a better football team right now. I'm going to take the Ravens and give the 3.5.
Yeah, I'm one of the top 50 people in North America that regularly rips on Baker Mayfield. He absolutely deserves to be ripped on for what he did after the game last week, where he just ran off the field, didn't even talk to anybody. I really dislike that in sports where you do battle and you're just so egotistical that you can't even go, shake the hands or hit the elbows of the guys you just played against that you did battle with. These people are in a sense risking their lives to play this game. And there's injury right around the corner. I think it just says a lot. I mean, like, I don't really care. Like, I guess he didn't do his media interview, and which I think is also ridiculous. It's part of the job that he's paid to do. But yet I saw brand new, after that loss last week, I saw a brand new Baker Mayfield Progressive Insurance commercial. It was pretty good, by the way.
They're all good, right? I mean, the guy, I think he's actually a pretty good actor. He might have a career afterwards.
I know. Maybe a little longer than some other former athletes' acting careers. But I look at this and I want this Cleveland Browns team. I want Kevin Stefanski to turn the ship around. I believe in this running game. I believe in that offensive line. But let's face it. To be fair to Baker Mayfield, he's really beat up. He's got all sorts of injuries all over the place. And the reality is he probably shouldn't be on the field right now. I joked about Russell Wilson earlier in the show. I said, Russell Wilson's throwing Baker Mayfield outs now, where he's, missing the guy by 5 yards. And, Baker is doing what he did early in his career. I think it's got to be, all of the injuries look, they barely beat Detroit last week, 13-10. This is a tall ask, asking him to go into the BLT to take down the Ravens. But hell if I really know what's going to happen here with this Ravens team. I mean, like, I was so upset that you took this game. because it's the Ravens. Like, I'm being forced to take the Ravens in this game, Brad. I'm going to agree with you reluctantly.
I'm sorry about that. But I kind of felt like it was somewhat of an intriguing game. I think the biggest problem with Cleveland is, again, I think defense has kind of figured out how to stop their running game. And their number one option in the passing game is Jarvis Landry. And that's not a number one option. And so they don't throw much to the tight end. And the running game is not clicking. And if those things are not working, that is not a Cleveland team that has a lot of success at winning football games. The Ravens need a win. I think it's a bigger game for them at home, playing in front of their fans. It's 3.5. I'm not real happy with the extra hook there, the extra half a point, but I'm going to give it.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to our last game of our top 10 games worth actually spending some money on for week number 12 of your National Football League season. I have got the Raiders going into Jerry Jones land and the Dallas Cowboys. This is a 7.5 point spread, Brad. That's a lot to ask of just about anybody. But under this pseudo interim Las Vegas Raider regime, they're not scoring more than 16 points in a game. I think they're averaging like 12 points in their last 3 games. That won't last. I mean, like, they'll turn the ship around at some point. This Dallas defense, though, I think is it plays way better at home. The crazy Dak Prescott at home stats are all over the media this week. You know, how he's such a great quarterback at home versus on the road this year. He's the highest rated quarterback in the National Football League at home. And I just sort of like look at this. I think, there's some other, because it's the Cowboys. So there's always some turmoil, like whenever the owner of the National Football League team, like the owner or quarterback or somebody has like a regular media appearance. So, Aaron Rodgers has his weekly media appearance on the Pat McAfee show. So, there's always going to be some Aaron Rodgers thing. Jerry Jones has a less publicized weekly thing that he does with one of the local radio stations down in Dallas. He was asked this week about Amari Cooper, because Cooper is, without getting political here, Cooper is one of these guys that is not vaccinated. Yesterday, Michael Irvin got asked, how do you feel about that? And, Michael Irvin basically went down the list of what the other wide receivers were making on the Cowboys team. Like, this guy's making $1 million, this guy's making $2 million. And the guy that's making $21 million refuses to take, the vaccine. He was not happy. The Cowboys are not happy with Amari Cooper. And it is without being political here, it's a team sport and you need your teammates to be there. And you would think that, if you have everybody sort of, heading in the same direction as a team, you'd have everybody vaccinated on the team. You just think you would, unless there's some medical reason not to. But all of that being said, to me, this is an easy one. Just the Raiders are just a mess, and they're a significantly bigger mess than the Cowboys are, and the Cowboys are going to be at home. So I'm going with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't think it is an easy game at all. In fact, I think it's a lot of points to give up for a team that hasn't looked particularly good the last few weeks. Amari Cooper and the wide receiver, on the other side, CeeDee Lamb. They're both dinged up. Neither one might even play this game. And Dak Prescott has a lack of weapons out there. And, they score points in bunches. Offensively, they haven't been very good ever since the Henry Ruggs incident. And just seems like there's been kind of a funk, a car ever since. 7.5 points. That's a lot of points to give up for a team, the Raiders, that looked so good just 3-4 weeks ago. I'm going to give them another chance. I'm going to take 7.5, and I'm going to take the Raiders.
All right. Well, there you have it. Brad is going to go with the Raiders in this one. I'm going to go with the Cowboys for basically all the wrong reasons. But it should be an interesting week. I think this is a week where I can win a couple games back on Brad. At least that is my hope. Mr. Hoysef, any final words before we get out of here?
No, I just want everybody to have a great Thanksgiving weekend. It's always fun. Get to watch some football. If you're in my neck of the woods, you're going to enjoy 83-degree weather tomorrow. I might get outside, go for a walk. I've got most people have family and friends and stuff coming into town. So, it's a week of getting together and talking about old times. So hopefully we can get back to old times, picking some winners rather than what we've seen happen the last couple of weeks.
I do just want to point out everybody, like nobody has gotten away with anything over the last 3 or 4 weeks when it comes to picking games. I echo what Brad's saying. Wish everybody out there a fantastic Thanksgiving. Enjoy your friends, your family, your loved ones. Stay safe out there. That is Brad Hoysef over there in beautiful Southern California. I'm Dave DeBaugh up in Northern California. Go Aggies. Wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out Mighty.Rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.